Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Feeling Smarter. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Tim Miller. G'day, Tim. How are you?
Yeah, going pretty well. Aaron, how are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. Well, we have a calendar of items that we want to talk about each week when it comes to our Feeling Smarter edition, and every so often we get a bit of a surprise. And today we got one of those surprises. So today, Tim, we're going to be talking about the recent introduction of draft regulations by Treasury around dealing with legacy pensions inside SMSF. So I'm going to get you to just elaborate a little bit further on the impact of this announcement.
Yeah, look, I think this is an interesting one, Aaron, because we spoke a lot around things like Division 296 and other measures that we've been talking about infinitum for the last 2 years, and saying, once we get or before we get a final position on Div 296, we're going to have to get some certainty around legacy pensions. So we've sort of been going, when is this coming, with no real expectation of seeing it lob anytime soon. And then lo and behold, here it is. So what we've actually seen is, further to the government's announcement a few years back now with regards to this legacy pension amnesty, we've seen the release of these draft regulations. And it's fair to say that these regulations have gone a lot further than we ever really expected. They certainly have gone more to the level of what we had hoped for in original consultation. But effectively what we've got is the capacity now to commute complying lifetime pensions, complying fixed term or life expectancy pensions, which of course most of them have now come to an end, but also market linked pensions, and allocate the reserves for the purposes of account-based pensions, accumulation, or just to draw the money out. Now, one of the huge benefits comparative to the last announcement is, instead of this being a 2-year legacy item, it will be a 5-year legacy item from the date of that the regulations commence. So we're looking at a concept of, as soon as the regulations come into place, having 5 years to be able to do it. And what we're also going to see is significant changes to the income tax regulations around reserves to deal with how some of these allocations will be treated, to ensure that, firstly, in many instances, there will be no cap issues, so no sort of link to either the concessional or non-concessional cap. But more importantly, for those that are worried about the fact that where there was a trip up with reserve allocations, you got captured by concessional contributions, and under these new requirements, you'll be effectively targeting the non-concessional cap versus the concessional cap, allowing for larger allocations to be made for members. So they're quite significant in their capacity to ultimately wipe these pensions out and wipe the reserves out in a fairly short time frame.
Yeah, and a lot of this does come back to, and what we as an industry have been asking for a long time, and that is to simplify the product mix that actually exists within our sector. And quite clearly, this has been highlighted over a long period of time, like not just the Division 296, but we've had problems and complexity within the transfer balance cap requirements and the cap defined benefit income stream rules and so forth. So having previously and in recent times seen repealed aspects of Division 296 in Parliament in terms of that bill trying to go through, maybe, just maybe, we've seen Treasury take a step back and go, actually, let's have a proper look at this now and start to reframe what this conversation should actually look like, because they could then potentially see a lot of the issues that were going to come out if these laws then came into play. Because I think effectively what you're saying there, Tim, is the fact that we can unwind these to some extent will allow for that money to either exit the system or stay in accumulation, or if they are going to keep it in some form of retirement phase, well, they're going to be subject to their ordinary personal transfer balance cap limit in any event.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so there's a lot of logistics to go with this measure, but at least we've got a starting point, which is what it looks like, and being that it's regulation, not a bill, it means that its passage is subject to consultation. Obviously, is generally a lot smoother than any bill. So it's not like we're thinking, oh, this could be 1 year, 2 years away. This is something that if it's the consultation period finishes early October, so if the government sort of hightail it with this, that we could see something relatively quickly and start acting real soon with regards to what action, if any, that we want to take. And I highlight the if any because still these pensions still for many people have a benefit, and that benefit is social security.
Yep.
And so it's not that 100% of these types of pensions will be commuted immediately, but I think a lot of those clients who are getting into their mid to late 80s, and some of them in their 90s, really need to consider whether it is the appropriate action. So they'll need to go down that advice path to work out what the best action is.
Yeah, and ultimately that extended period of time from 2 years that was announced in the budget originally to 5 years enables them to have their circumstances reviewed, measure against what those pros and cons actually look like, and then go from there. And I think the other part to that we'll need to obviously spend some time at within Smarter SMSF is then going back to the construct of the deed and obviously some of the documentation that we have in respect to our market link pensions. We do some work around legacy pension conversions under the current rules as they apply at the moment. I think that's an important thing for people to remember. We can't just kind of shoot off here and get underway. Yes, there'll be regulations and they'll come into effect at a point in time, but it's really understanding what our rules of our fund say and what the rules of those income streams will say. And we were only talking before we jumped online here today that we do have some deeds that may be very prescriptive in terms of how those pensions must comply, and some will be quite broad. And therefore, understanding those nuances will be crucial to how we need to document the potential commutation and what's then ultimately going to transpire from that.
Correct. And of course, the other thing too is appreciating that for those that set up the lifetime flexi pensions, that they don't form part of this measure, which of course was expected after the original announcement was made as well. But those pensions will still need to go through, for those that exist. There wouldn't be many, but if they still exist, that you have to contemplate what the ramifications are of maintaining those pensions within the fund environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said there's a bit of water to go under the bridge first, which means Tim and I, we've got a bit of work to do ourselves around the documentation that we have and what impact that will be happening on the deed as well. We'll naturally provide you with much more information as things progress. Tim, I think we have just a relatively short period of consultation time as well here. So the best part of 3 weeks or so to get that done. So again, we'll keep you abreast of what is happening in that regard, and those that utilise the Smarter SMSF deed and our documents, again, that have clients impacted by that, we'll keep you up to date about the changes and how and when these rules fall, what steps you would need to take about that as well. So to you, Tim, thanks for sharing some insights today.
No problems, Aaron. Always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. Bye for now.
Bye.